Good morning, Form 4s. In today's class, you're going to still be rehearsing your monologue, but the focus will be on the vocalization. So just to do a quick recap, you first started the first rehearsal by discovering your space. Then the second rehearsal, you develop your physicalisation. So today you're going to add to it, and obviously with each rehearsal you're adding to the layers and the richness of your performance that you're creating right now. So today's lesson is going to be focused on vocalization. Now, in order to be able to achieve that aspect of vocalization, you obviously have your invisible text exercise. And when you're going to be rehearsing today, I will make you rehearse in pairs so that we can get it in turn where the other person will read the invisible text, and you will then be able to say your monologue in response to that invisible text. The other thing is today is a day you should be able to rehearse without the script in hand. So we're going to try and do it. And as you're responding as your character saying your monologue, but to the invisible text, try and do it with the physicalization that you explored in class last week. So you're already adding that layer on top of it. Then once you've done it with your peer, where then you shift and you read their invisible text and they'll perform it. As for the person who's reading the invisible text, don't forget, you don't want to be kind. The invisible text is from the perspective of someone who's not very supportive, not very helpful, so don't read it in a very kind manner. You can be a little bit confrontational in the way you're reading it. The other aspect as you're working on vocalization, and this is something that's really important to Declan, and it is something that really does help you create what we spoke about in Unit 1 and at the start of this Unit 2, the notion of having a truthful performance, a performance that when you look at the character on stage, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel fake, but it looks like real human interaction, real humans behaving and reacting to what's happening. And one of the ideas that Declan Donnellan has developed is the notion that words are never enough. And that is true. It's especially true when you're emotional, but even when you're not emotional, you will say something and then you realize, okay, that's not quite clear, I need to add more to it. And then you try and add more to it and you realize that's still not clear and I'm not getting the message, and the one thing I'm trying to say, I'm not finding the words to be able to say it effectively. And in many ways, even right now as I'm doing this video, I'm adding more and more because I want to make sure that I'm communicating the meaning to you in a very clear manner. So once you've got that invisible text, you're going to go to that notion of words are not enough. But before I do explain to you how you're going to work on that, I'm going to read an extract from one of his chapters. I'm reading from chapter 16 titled I Don't Know What I'm Saying, and then I'll guide you in terms of what you need to be doing. So, beginning to read. Words don't work. Words do not do what they're supposed to do. Measured against our expectations, words are inadequate and even banal. They try to express in words what we need or feel is like knitting a scarf with tree trunks. We may want to tell the truth, but words lie. They have no options. Feelings and words live in different dimensions, like polar bears and whales. Speech, like any other reaction, always ends in failure. Words cannot start to do wonderful things. Words can start to do wonderful things only when we realize that they can hardly do anything at all. Of course, Shakespeare's language cannot express the immensity of what Juliet feels. That is precisely why Shakespeare is a genius. Like Chekhov, he clearly sees the distance between what we want to say and the meager words we have to say it. More specifically, they see the impossibility of ever truly being heard. Although Irina may be intimidated by the sheer scale of the text, she must remember that Juliet's problem is a precise opposite. Where Irina fears her emotion is too small to support the text, Julian will feel her emotions is too huge to be constrained within the tiny confines of the words. This remains a central and vital distance between actor and character, and this is a liberating distance. And we have seen that if Irina tries to get near to Juliet by eliminating the difference between them, she may reassure herself in the short term but will block herself later. And here is a vital distinction between Irina and Juliet. Irina's challenge is that her text is too good, but Juliet's problem is that her text is not good enough. The more things matter to me, the more banal all available words seem. We know how hard it is to express our condolences to someone whose partner has died. I can't find the words. Words not only give expressions, words also deny expression. And the more that the stakes rise, the more the words tend to strangle the feeling. End quote. So, now that you would have already done the invisible text exercise with your peer, you're going to work on your own, but you're still going to look at that invisible text. And now imagine, so the invisible text will come back to being invisible. And don't forget the meaning of what is visible and invisible according to Declan Donnellan. So invisible is going to be what will be seen in performance, but right now we're going to make that invisible text visible during the rehearsal process. So as you're making that invisible text back visible so that you're consciously using it, we're going to look at the notion that whatever you answer back to your invisible text that you've written, that you've created, it's not going to be enough to make that invisible text, which is linked to one of your targets. It's not going to be enough for your target to understand what your character is trying to say. And you can see that target as an actor, because that's what we are working on. The one thing that is certain, on which, about which and around which and on which you've got control, is the target, because everything else you won't be able to control it. So as you go back now, I want you to go back from the start of your monologue and really see and feel how these words are not enough for your character to be able to communicate what is so important and so pressing and so urgent for him or her to have to say, except that every time he or she speaks, he or she feels like what they're saying is not actually communicating what they're trying to say, the very meaning, the very weight of the emotions of everything they're thinking and feeling. Those words are just not enough to communicate that. And based on that, then we can go back to the technicalities of vocalization. So because of that understanding, because you've been able to explore that through the target, by layering it on top of your physicalisation with the awareness of the space that has limitations, constraints, but also opens up possibilities to you, to your character, everything coming through the target. Because you've got all of that knowledge, we can then look at how are those felt, receive feelings able to dictate your choice in terms of the speed at which you're speaking, the volume, changes in volume. You can look at the tone of voice, poses, and all of those aspects of the technical vocal skills, which you're going to obviously modulate and change. You can bring them back into the equation now.